Uno, dos, tres.
Greetings, everyone, and thanks for checking in to our latest conversation. We are three Black Pratt grads. My name is Kenneth Nelson. I'm here with my good friends Mark Skinner and Greg Cleghorn. We
Hey.
are all graduates of the Fine Art Photography program at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. Today, we're going to
Right
be
there.
discussing, in a word, light.
Light.
The visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Uh,
Ooh.
right, yes. And the invisible parts, just for reference, the invisible parts of the electromagnetic spectrum we are not going to be speaking to is radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma rays.
Good
We're only
Lord.
speaking to the visible portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. In this discussion, as well as the general practice of photography, we're just talking about visible parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. It is what allows us to see, and we must see in order to be able to photograph. There's a ton of reference material on the internet about what is light. So Google "what is light" quote to get in-depth information. The
There was
physics.
that blind photographer. That was
I'm
a real
sorry.
thing. He'd hear something
Yes, I've seen it.
and turn the camera, and he still couldn't see what he shot, but by gum, he's a photographer.
That's wow. He was on like 60 Minutes like 20 years ago, right?
Unbelievable. I was so insulted, but God bless him.
Well, I sort of recall that. I do. Okay. With that, there's going to be we're going to be focusing our attention on photographs that feature light as its main subject. Uh, the three of us have been asked to bring three images we feel that is more about light than about the subject itself that appears in the photograph. So, you out there, let us know in the comment section if you feel any of the images that were submitted by any of the three of us doesn't meet your specific criteria for having light as the main subject. All right. So light has to be the main subject. As I was preparing for this episode, I began doubting whether I would really be able to accomplish the task. So with that, let's get started and see what comes of the discussion. Um, Again, I'll just start with my three images that I brought up, and I won't speak to them in any specific fashion in terms of long explanation. They're just going to be three images, and I think the primary thing about them is light.
Ooh.
You know?
Mm.
So I'll speak. And what you
Ah.
may notice when you see this, so this is one of three. I'll leave that on for another few seconds or so you get an idea. Right? And then here's the second one,
Ooh.
right? Which again, I really would consider it to be mainly about light. And then I'll give you a third one, which I
Ooh.
think is about light. Now, if you notice that all three of them have sort of a similar thing in common, which is silhouetting, and the objects are to a form abstract, so as to take out relative information or in things that are easily identifiable. So that way you have more of an ability to think about the light. And of course, without the light, with the light, there's a heavy shadow, and that's to sort of increase the essence of what the light is. So, you have a strong shadow to effectively accentuate what is light. So I will leave it up to you guys for any questions
Hmm.
as to any one of these. What are your thoughts, opinions? Do you think these are about light? Do you think they're not about light? Do you think, I just didn't hit the mark on any of them?
Well, I like the texture on this one. I don't know, maybe I'm have a little twisted sensibility, but all I could think of is like road rash, like kind of jumping, falling off your skateboard and sliding across that New York asphalt. But I like the light in it, absolutely. That late afternoon, excuse me, or early morning raking light, I like that a lot. And the textures and the lines are really, really fun for the eye to play with. The second one kind of looks like a Robert Frank, that self-awareness, putting yourself into the image. I felt that one was more about self-discovery so much than light. I mean, again, that breaking light is, you know, um, always fun to play with what it does visually. And the last one, it's just you're having a lot of fun playing with shapes and forms and the way light moves. And I like that, it's the different lines and angles. This is a fun image. It's a lot about light, and I don't see anything. The first one and this third one really work for me as far as a purely light composition. Not saying the second one isn't. It is
Right.
a good example of that, but
Uh-huh.
it's more a self-exploration than you know, quote unquote pure light. And it could have been fun if you did this in infrared, because infrared would take this totally black and white and pop your colors, or excuse me, pop your the imagery or the quality of light that infrared captures. I had fun with that infrared for a bit, but go ahead. I enjoyed them. Thank you for sharing those.
Okay. Mark, anything to say?
Yeah, I would say they're definitely about light and shadow simultaneously, and basically the idea of light and the absence of light. It's being shared in the same frame. In most of them, I guess there's only three, but in most of them, it's about light and how it creates shadows or doesn't create shadows on very flat surfaces that are perpendicular to the viewer. And there's a lot of leading
Perpendicular to the
lines,
viewer.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. So let's say you were let's say you're standing straight up to take a photograph. A lot of the images are about what's on the ground and how light falls on the ground. And the last one that you showed was about how light shines onto a wall. And in each case, they may not all be sunlight, but they all look like sunlight. And the way the sunlight writes um, on a flat surface, or a
Hmm.
relatively flat surface, or a big plane, with when you have these um, uh, other, uh, in most cases, lines
Hmm.
crossing the path of the light.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what I like about the last one is that those New York City subway porcelain tiles, you got more the lines in the tiles, and then you got the lines of the banisters, and then the banisters doing this, and then you get the reflection in the porcelain, and it's making, it's like different levels of, the dark and then the light and in the middle, and then it's a fun image. Why did you pick these? That's what I want to know.
Because to me the essence of the photograph is the light,
Okay.
right? And when I came upon the scene, I immediately knew that I was going to. It was because to me it was about the light, and even when I approached it, I said, "Yeah, it's about the light." And the
Uh-huh.
light is creating these amazing shapes and forms.
And
And I'm
texture
going to
too.
use the light to record the shapes and forms,
Hmm.
right? And so the angle of the light makes this all possible. The angle makes what is here possible. And the notion that the angle of this light would change from moment to moment. So this only exists for a few moments.
Hmm.
And at some point in time, it will change. Because, yes, as Mark alluded to, it's a sunlit photograph.
Mhm.
And so therefore the angle of the sun is changing, continually changing. So therefore this only exists for a few moments of time and for only a few parts of the year, because this area that I'm photographing doesn't get sunlight all the time. In the winter, the sun doesn't shine here.
Okay.
So
So, okay, about the first two, were you interested in the texture that
no,
the low light?
nope. Every photograph that I've showed you today, the primary reason for me taking the photograph was the
Uh,
light. The way
okay.
the light, what the light would do to what was in front of me at the moment when I was looking at it.
Okay.
Right. I was walking. I was doing a walkabout on this first one, and I saw this, and I was like, okay, how do I represent this? Because to me, it's about the light. And I mean, sure, if you're in the city, you understand what visually is the photograph's in, but it's such a stark image that it's not about any individual thing or person. So you look at this and you say, do I focus on these horizontal lines? Is that all there is? Do I focus on the shadow that's created? Oh, then that makes the reference to the light because the shadow is created by the light, not being able to pass through a solid object.
Okay.
You know?
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Why did you choose black and white?
Uh,
Hello?
no, I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here. I can't think of a reason why I chose it.
okay. Okay, not that it's a bad choice. I like it, but I was just curious because light, even visible light is a whole lot of colors. But the choice to do black and white does narrow it. I mean, I love the textures, man. I'm into like this one.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Man, I remember those days beating them sidewalks, man. And the sound. And what's the fun thing I used to do is just stand on the side, close my eyes, and just listen to all the footsteps hitting the pavement. The shoes and all of that. I don't know, that's my own thing. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So, yeah.
And I like the reflections in that one. That totally gives it a whole nother complexity of shadows and reflections and lines, and that's a fun image. I really like that one.
Thank you.
Well, for me, this photo is not only about the light, but it's also about the idea that the light casts a shadow of something very similar, but not exactly like what we actually see, mostly silhouetted in the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
So the other two are very similar to one another. And in this particular one, I think there's a lot more going on. It's about light, but it's also about working different planes of focus and how the illusion of shadow replicates, how shadow can replicate what's physically in front of us. Because in this particular light, the banister and the banister, it's silhouetted for the most part,
Right.
And so it has a similar quality of light that's reflected back to us as the wall.
Yep.
And so in that case, when you'd say that this one's about light, I think this one's a much more complicated composition. It's much more well thought out capture as opposed to, aha, I saw it, I'm going to get it. I mean, I don't know how much time you spent on each one, but I'm sure with this one, there was a lot of, really considering exactly what you wanted to get.
The dynamics of this particular scene were so enthralling that I didn't spend that much time with it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But you walk upon a scene like this and something there's a vibration that's happening, whether that's a wavelength or what have you. But when you walk upon this scene, you're like, okay,
there's something there.
There's something there, and this is really right. So, what is the best way for me in my sensibilities at that moment to record it in a way that I'm going to be happy with the results? And so, I think with this, I spent within this where I was at, I spent maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes recording, maybe about 6 or 8 frames, and then I.
Right, but did you spend that much time with the other two?
With this one, I can't say that I spent 6 or 8 minutes. I can't even say that I used 6 or 8 frames. I think in this particular one, there may have been 3 frames.
And
now,
right?
I mean, I get it.
And
Because with this, what you're going for
yeah,
is there,
yeah,
and you're just sort of, fitting it into place.
yeah. And this particular one, I mean, I spent this one. I probably shot the most frames on this one, but I also probably had the most deletes on my edits from this one
Hmm.
because I
I was
wasn't
getting.
satisfied with the silhouette. I was looking for a specific silhouette, this silhouette, and for some reason I couldn't get it because either my ankle wasn't right or my elbows weren't right or something. So I had to, right, and so yeah, I had to make things right in the way. And then of course the framing to some degree, I had no choice in the framing. This part in the upper right hand corner, I couldn't get rid of it. All right,
Hmm.
without changing everything. So I had to just say I'll leave with that. And so this upper left hand corner as well.
Hmm.
They just had to be
Okay.
there. I couldn't get rid of it, and I didn't want to crop this frame any closer because I liked what was happening with this there.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question. Is this the only time you've attempted to take this photo?
Yes, in this particular scene at that particular day, yes. I've taken similar images like this, but not at that time.
I
Okay.
get a kick out of all the biohazard pieces of gum like imprinted into the cement.
Yes, yeah.
That's what it says New York. I mean, other countries, you drop your gum on the street, you'll get arrested. But
Okay, I didn't know that.
I
Oh,
love. Oh yeah.
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. This
the
is
gum. It's a New York shot for
yeah.
sure.
It's I'm yeah, and actually those gum droppings are part of another project that I was working on.
Gum
Uh,
droppings.
gum droppings, yeah, gum
Yeah,
droppings.
really. That's,
Yeah, they are, man. I mean,
that,
they are.
that's gonna be some finished project.
Uh,
Okay, so that's
Right.
what I
One
got.
last question. One last
Yeah,
question. The last one with the staircase and the
yeah.
banister. Did you, when you said you took a bunch of, did you work the frame or what was, did you, because it's just such an interesting and dynamic capture, and I like the way you balanced it with the banisters and shadow left and right. Now, were you working the frame or
Oh, I worked the frame.
okay?
I
All
worked the
right.
frame. So I wasn't just shooting from this angle. I chose three different angles, and
Uh,
this was the third angle that I shot from. And I
okay.
worked the frame from this angle.
Okay.
So yeah.
It looks like
Yeah,
a
I mean,
black and white Mondrian grid on steroids.
yeah. When you look at this photo, you can really tell that there's a lot of work going on with the viewfinder. I mean, it says that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm
That's
not
it
saying
for
it's
me,
bad. I mean,
guys.
it's good. It's
Yeah,
good.
no,
It says
no.
exactly what you said it should look, what it should do. But in terms of someone who's working
Uh,
the camera and working the photo, you can see that you're making choices all the way around the whole frame
oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
the exposure and
Yeah,
everything. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
as opposed to the other two, uh, there's a lot more thought into what you're doing that's visible to someone who
Well,
Mm.
knows.
I will challenge that and say that as of I think yesterday or the day before, I started to really think about how I work a scene or work a photograph.
Hmm.
And it is so ingrained in me naturally to work the scene that I no longer consider it working the scene.
Uh,
Because
but you are.
because when you approach a thing, you're visualizing the many angles and things are that going to best represent what you want to do. And before
Mm.
you even get there, you sort of have an idea of how you want it. So you're working the scene before you get there. So I'm walking down the stairs in this case, and I'm seeing the scene already, and I'm saying,
Yes.
okay, how am I going to represent this? And I'm already
Uh,
working it, and then I put into action what I've already thought about in those 10 seconds before I got there. So
Right.
I've
okay.
already worked the scene, and so therefore, and I tend to do that with every photograph I take. And it's just so automatic that I no longer consider it working the scene.
Uh,
But technically, you literally do.
like
Right.
that
You're
mental
basically
Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's basically there's a time between the decisive moment and the actual capture in some of these instances, unless you're capturing action. But in some, you have a decisive moment in this.
Yeah.
There's a decisive moment. It was as soon as you recognized what was attractive to you in the scene, and then you thought about it as you said, as you descended the stairs, and then as you got to the bottom of the stairs, then you went, or got to that certain point, you went, aha, now I'm
Yep.
going to work the scene
Yeah.
in the camera to get
Yep.
the image that I'm looking for. But that's
Right.
that's a little bit away from the decisive moment, but
Right.
you created a capture. I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And it's funny because as you think about it, there are two forms. There are two sets of edits that are happening. One, you're editing in camera, and the next, you're editing at home. Once you've gotten your selects down, right? You're editing out what you know you don't want because it won't work, and then you have a series of images that you have an idea that they will work, and so those are the ones that you're aiming for, right?
Right.
And then you take them home and you say, okay, and you compare all of them out, and you say, okay, visually, now that I've had a few days or whatever, or a few hours to think about this, which one visually, excites me or does whatever I was thinking about when I first saw it.
Mm.
Right.
And
So you're
those,
looking for the match. Right.
yeah, you're looking for it. You say, okay, what did I feel when I got there, and which one represents that feeling? Boom, that's it. Okay, that's going to be my edit. Now, of course, that has to do with what you're used to seeing in terms of angle, design, leading lines, and all the other artistic stuff that comes into your mind, and you're putting it all together, and you're saying, okay, all my history leads me to this one.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, how much of a, forgive me, Mark, how much of a Pratt influence do you feel happens when you're shooting stuff like this? Because, like for me, I was saying, if I would want to take a paintbrush or go and take it into Photoshop and color in and put, some Mondrian color swatches in all of those squares, and, just have some fun with it. But how much, do you have that, you know, Rolodex going of, photographers that you studied and or paintings that you've seen and different design elements from the graphic school, and how much of that goes into what your choices are?
I everything that I've ever seen, felt, heard, or emoted about is in this photograph.
Okay, cool. Okay,
So it's all there.
it's all
And
there.
I can't, take out and say that Pratt aesthetic is not there because I'll say it is because it's part of what I've gone through. It's
Okay,
part of my visual
language.
essence or whatever you want to call
Sorry.
it. It's what motivates me. It's what visually excites me when I see things.
So it's part of your visual language. I hate to
Yes.
art
Yeah.
speak you, but
Yes. Yeah.
oh my God, I'm art speaking. Ah!
Okay, that's enough. Let's move
All
on.
right,
Greg, you're next,
moving
right?
right along. Yeah, I'm up.
Okay, Greg. Let's move to Greg and Larry.
Yeah. Can you zoom out on that? Well, now when you said it's all about light. Now I kind of came at it from a different angle. I mean, I love, oops. Oh, doggone it. Hold on. I gotta switch my phone back. I keep getting these
I like that,
notices.
Greg. You came at it from a different angle. You looked up.
I love, you Mark, I tell you. Wait a second. Where'd you guys go? We're in Skype, right? Where are you?
You're still there, Greg. You just
Am I
it's
still
just your
there?
video feed.
Well, I can't see myself. I can't see you guys. Anyway, I'm just gonna move right along. This one, I wanted to, the atmospheric rings or circles or from caused by the light passing through, ice crystals in the upper atmosphere. Um, are kind of cool, but I wanted to add something to it. So I found this old lamppost and put it right spot center and captured this image. But light for me is it's I mean, well, of course it's everything, but um, it comes in a lot of different shapes and so many different elements go into what we see, in our limited range of visual acuity, but it's fun. I like to have fun with the imagery. So I captured this. I thought this was kind of interesting. Okay, go on to the next one.
Okay.
All right, which one is this up? Because I can't see where you are.
Spiral.
Spiral. Spiral. Yeah, well, I was out at Mount Shasta. This was during one of the large wildfires, and the color of the light was actually shot through a haze of smoke that was passing south of us.
I see it.
So it was a little disturbing, because there's acres and acres and acres and lives being lost and homes being destroyed. And at that mountain, they have a lot of spiritual sites, Native American spiritual sites. And the color of the light was, ominous and apocalyptic. And I just wanted to capture the color of the light and how that can add or subtract from an image and give a different emotive emotional impact visually. And that's what I feel I was trying to capture in this, that orangey red sky. It could be mistaken for a sunset, but this was early in the afternoon. Well, I won't say early in the afternoon. It was a late afternoon, but not late enough for a sunset color, the sunset colors, traditional sunset colors. So I wanted to capture the color of light in relationship to fire and the spirituality of the that's a walking circle there where people walk and pray and do their spiritual journey at that site. Okay,
Is
go on to the next one. Go
what's
ahead.
what's the scale on that walking circle? Because I've never seen one of those.
It's about a good, let's say, 40 feet wide.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Just
Yeah.
yeah. It's
It's
something good
it's
because it seems much smaller. It
It
seems
does. Yeah.
about maybe 8 feet at most. But
Yeah.
okay.
no. It was pretty big. It was pretty big. I had to back way off of it to capture all of it. I don't know if it's cropped in what I'm looking at, but yeah, I had to back way off
I
to
see.
get that
Well, the big
information.
question then is, how did you find yourself so elevated?
I stood on a bench,
Okay.
or was it a bench, or did I move the car? Um, Elevated as far as what? Where I was.
Your point of view is elevated to the point where you don't get a sense that that's 40 feet across. You get it seems like maybe it's 8 feet across and you're just standing up.
Uh, it was elevated. I don't know. Understand what you mean by elevated.
Your point of view is higher
It's
than the.
higher. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
might have been standing on the ledge of the car,
Okay.
like where the running board would be,
Right.
to get that vantage. Um, it was pretty big. My recollection. Don't quote me on it, but it was pretty big.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we could go to the next one.
Okay.
And the of course the reflection and refraction. This is always one of my favorites because it shows the colors in the spectrum. When light is refracted through it, you get the whole spectrum of visible light from white to the deep blues into ultraviolet and otherwise visible. And I just kind of got a kick out of when you said light, and I was taken back to all the early scientific experiments of splitting light and how scientists now split light and they can see radio waves and such with the proper instrumentation. But with photography, my gosh, it's just such a fun medium. You you could do so much with it. And you know, 'cause they say, you know, the golden hour, if you get up and shoot, you know, just after sunrise, the light just has this beautiful, you know, warm tone to it that that's no other time of the day, or you know, other than evening, where you get that same warm warm color of light. And it you know, depending on what you do with it, you know, you could use gels, you know, you could bounce it off a color board, you know, you could do so much. And light has a way of just doing what it does, you know.
Right, but
Shadows, if you
this is
shoot
a
in shadow, you get blue. Go ahead.
this is a natural refraction, though, isn't it? It's a
Yes,
okay.
natural refraction.
Okay. So I'm going to now challenge you
Oh,
because the in the most general of senses, it was just about light, and what you've done is you've broken down the Roy G. Biv and things of that nature into its separate components, which was not really the essence of what I was hoping to achieve in terms of an image. But
well,
you've taken it and you sort of stretched it more so than I thought we would do. But I'm only going to come at it from there because now people have to understand what they're looking at, and they may not understand what it is that they're looking at, even when you call it a refraction.
okay. Or
So
reflection. It could be reflection. Part both actually. But go ahead. Go ahead.
no, right, because you know we can talk that to say that our discussion is about light, and so we can bring in the other parts of the visible of the spectrum that are here. But I think it now is up to you to describe what it is going on within the frame for those who don't know what refraction or what Roy G. Biv are.
Okay. Well, when you split light, when light is split into its components, you get the red, yellow, blue um, components, or the greens. Well, light. What is light primaries are RGB? You know, pigment primaries, red, yellow, blue. But in light primaries, when light is split, you get the spectrum. You know, from the reds to yellows, uh, blues, and violet. La la, Roy G. Biv. So orange and such. And if it's left alone, it would be white, like the.
Indigo and violet are the ones that you're going.
Okay, thank you,
Gotcha.
thank you. And you know, white light, in white light, like the light in the center, is white if you don't you know, do anything to it. But once you split it, or if you have some sort of device that splits the light or refracts it, you get all the colors that's in the light, which is kind of the fun part. So when you said light, you know, this image popped into my head. I was like, okay, this is
Right.
this is this is my interpretation of light. When you say it's got to be about light, and light is just, you know, that's like talking about Maya Angelou and say that she can put a good sentence together. You know, okay, come on, you know, she can really put some sentences together. You know, and light for me, you know, this is my interpretation. When I think of light, I get a kick out of the different color and light. You know, I mean, sometimes white light is cool. You know, other times, you know, blue light is cool. You know, and you look at, you know, like I was saying, if you walk into a shadow, yeah, if you could, it could be black, but if you look at it, it has a blue cast to it. You know, and it's kind of a interesting thing. So, thank you for the topic. I really enjoy that. But color is mood. You know, light is mood. You know, you have, you know, lights in your house. If you're having a nice dinner, you go by candlelight, and that's a different color of light. You know, and it sets a different mood. So um, I had another one, but he won't let me show. Let me show three.
3, yes.
And um, it was light going through blinds, and the air is very dirty, and it's, you know, you can see the lines of the blinds in the light. You know, so dirty light can be interesting too, and it's moody, and it's cinematic, and it's painterly. You know, and it's emotional. You know, it's atmospheric. It's a lot of things that, you know, wherever your mind takes you, when you see light and light passing through things, or light hitting something and changing color. Colors are, you know, we're very sensitive to the color of light. So when you said light, that kind of tripped some other things in my head. But that's what I
Okay.
was thinking when I thought of light. So that's all I got.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mark, anything from you?
Yeah, I think I like the walking circle because you've got this haze that goes through the entire piece. You know, and that's the haze from the fires, obviously, but it gives you the sfumato we talked about last week. It's really it's just very gentle, yet you understand the violent fire that's all the way in the distance. It covers a lot of I don't want to say turf. That would be a wrong way to say it. But it covers a lot of ideas about what happens to that land. You know, you see respect for the past in that land, and you also get a sense of what's what's happening. You know, now at least at the time when you're taking the photograph. Yet the same light that is generated by that fire is now added to whatever the sun or the lack of sun has given us, and it's combined to illuminate this image that represents the past. So I like it quite a bit.
Cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
So, would this particular image be considered about light, or was it more considered about the subject?
I would say that it's about the subject. However, it's about light for a technician. And I hate to do that to you, Greg, because I know how,
About light for a technician.
right. And the reason
Go
why I
ahead.
say that is because what's happening is you're using the two different light sources that are available to you. That's the glow of the flames in the back and whatever ambient light that would be there from the sunlight or the lack of sunlight. And together they're combining to be a new ambient light, a temporary ambient light. And this would not be the same photograph if the fires were not raging.
Right. It would be a
Right.
different visual experience. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So in all honesty, I would say, you know, to the casual observer, it's about the walking circle, and that's obviously what the subject is. But for those of us who take photographs or do film work, for us, it's about how the light from the raging fire has cast a new light on that walking circle.
Hmm.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
it's about we're talking about the quality of light and the difference in the quality of light reference to in this particular instance a
Well,
specific quality of light.
right. There's a lot more sfumato. I'm presuming. Maybe you tell me if I'm wrong. That
No,
on
you're right.
Mount Shasta, under normal circumstances where there isn't a brush fire going on, you would have a much more clear view all the way through. You wouldn't have so much atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Uh, so there you go. It's about how the light is truly, once again, refracting through the atmosphere and how it's become diffusing. Excuse me, through
Yeah.
the atmosphere and
Hmm.
becoming very soft.
Hmm.
And without the giant filter or the giant softbox that's been created by the smoke of the burning timber,
Hmm.
there that
Yeah.
light would not exist. So for us, it's about the light. So for the casual observer, it's definitely the subject, and they would say, okay, it's a fire, Mount Shasta, walking circle. I get it, and walk away.
Hmm.
But for the person who's a technician, or for someone who's a park ranger who understands what that scene looks like without the fires, they know it's about how the light has been changed.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Uh, I agree. Um, but oops, sorry. I agree. But I guess the essence of what I was trying to capture, because I was definitely captured by the spirituality of the area. So the muted sun, the orangish color added to um, the what is that word? The holistic qualities of the image. You know that there was like you mentioned, the technical part of just the color of it and how it relates to destruction and rebirth. So, subject for me, I mean, from viewing it one way, it could be about the walking circle, but for me, what I was seeing, what I was feeling, it was more about the totality of the image, the fire, the smoke, and what it's doing to the earth and the sunlight, and how it relates to us. So, the circle on the ground and the circle in the sky, you know, eh, I can see what you're saying, and I thank you for your input. But for me, I kind of like the color of the light and it how it ties in with the whole of the image. For me, that's just my humble opinion.
Right.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the unique thing about it is, of course, that I mean, in general, we know that the sun, for the most part, gives off white light in the
Right.
visible spectrum.
Yeah.
And so when we see that it is changed demonstrably to a yellow, and and it's funny because the white light is all white light until it hits the atmosphere of the earth, and then it begins to change and morph. And then, whether it's smoke or atmosphere or what have you, the angle of
Mm.
sun gets lowered to the horizon. Oh, golden hour, bada bing, bada bing. So it's just the atmosphere of the earth that makes this white light change to whatever it is that we eventually see,
Right.
whether it's due to atmospheric haze, smoke, fire, or just the angle of the sun as it begins to set
Right.
behind clouds or something like that. So,
And
yeah, in that respect, yes. Because, I mean, if we think about it in its most uh, generic terms, light is light, and light is the reason why we're all here. Because without it, we just wouldn't exist. So yeah, to that degree, yeah, it satisfies that idea that yeah, it's very important.
okay. And for me, like uh, it's just the color of light. Light changes mood. If you don't have enough light in the wintertime, it makes people a little crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, just like color of light. I was going to say something else, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, that's the essence of what I was saying. Any thoughts on this one for you guys?
I mean, it's funny because the first thing I think about actually is not necessarily it's a halo, but more of um, of a of a burst of some sort. Uh,
Mm.
okay,
Hmm.
it's the essence of a center point and exploding out. And so when I see this, I immediately think of a bomb.
Wow. Okay.
You
See
know,
what I think of is the like lens flare. I mean,
Shockwave.
yeah.
A lens? What? A
Like
lens flare?
I think of lens flare, and I think and this one I think about the types of images. And this isn't an insult. This is just what it reminded me of. Those images that they would inspire, that would use to inspire photography in the magazines that we used to see, where they would say, try putting the sun behind a street lamp to see how your lens flares and really appreciate, you know, the colors and so forth that you get when the lens flares. That
Oh.
kind of exercise rather than um, you know, rather than some accident. It seems very much intentional, but it
Mm.
does really seem like some sort of lens flare trip, where you can get cool images by, placing objects in front of the sun.
Okay. Okay.
and
I'm insulted. How could you think that?
No, no, no. I mean, I'm not trying,
I'm kidding. Forget it. I'm
yeah.
joking. Go ahead. Move on.
No, but that's it.
Yeah,
That's it. It's just,
my thing is, for shooters out there, just experiment. Get your camera and just shoot light from any and every way you possibly can. You'll probably find something new because not everything has been done. there's things you can follow for, examples or whatever, but get out and shoot, explore, enjoy it.
Yeah. And for those, I'm not sure if anyone can see this, but they're actually the Roy G. Biv is actually visible throughout the ring that's going around here. The inner
Yes, it
ring
is.
is a little bit of red, and it's got a little bit of yellow, and then it goes out to the green and the blues way out in the edge. So it's very slight, but it's there. And if
So you
you're
got a sunbow.
So yeah, you do. So you got basically a rainbow. So this is how what light does. So it's a cool experiment, and it's a cool thing to see.
Hmm.
Uh, Light broken into its core values, or white light broken into its core values.
Right.
So that's
Roy
really
G. Biv, it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, Mark, violet.
yes,
Oh,
yep,
okay. And then it goes into the non-visible spectrum.
yeah. It goes from non-visible to non-visible again. Below
Copy.
400 nanometers and above 700 nanometers.
Oh, there you go again. Okay.
All right. Okay, let's move on before we close out. Mark, you're up.
Yeah, you're talking about infrared and ultraviolet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I tried to take what you said literally, and you were talking about light, and it's really about light in anything that you photograph. So, as you know, I did a lot of weddings, and so in this case, I felt that because the light is coming from such a specific area, the way this photograph is drafted, and I say that like as in draftsmanship, or the way things are drawn and shaded is very much about the light. If it was evenly illuminated, this scene would not have the dimension, the depth, or any of the sensibility of solemnity that you have there. Um, Interestingly enough, it's a wedding reception at a small restaurant. And as I had mentioned before, you have to photograph the accessories that go into a wedding. And this was one of the bouquets that one of the bouquets that one of the bridesmaids had, and is in front, and how it matched the lapel, of the groomsmen. And that was really it. I mean, you can see the background is a brick wall. That's really about it.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I knew a girl named Violet once.
Okay. Next one, Mark.
Now, the next one, I think we talked about this before with a previous lipstick photograph that wasn't as standard as this one. In this case, there are 3 lipstick cases, and as we know, if you just take a lipstick case or anything that's shiny and photograph it under any light, you don't always get the type of delineation that you want to see in a product photo. So in this case, oddly enough, it is about the light. It's about uh, putting an object in a space and lighting it in a way that really highlights the shininess of the casing, as well as showing you the color of the lipstick.
Okay.
Hmm. I dated a
So
girl
I mean,
named Ruby.
yeah, I hear you. Well, the funny thing is with each of these, I wanted to make sure that I gave a little bit of variety. In this one, this is just a bottle on a glass. And, you might say, well, it's a bottle on a glass, but anyone who actually photographs bottles and glasses knows that there are techniques in order to show that the subject that you are photographing is transparent. And there are things that you have to do to make sure that you see that there's a liquid inside, and then there's, it's simple, but then again, it's not simple because you also have to show volume, and you have to give it a sense of dimension as well. So that's really it. I just used light creatively in the studio just to make sure that it was very evident that there was a bottle and a glass, and each one of these items had volume and that you could see that they were, together in the same space. And that's it.
Okay. So it's more product oriented than it is light oriented. Light is the thing that allows you to see what it is you're photographing as a product.
Well, I can get real tricky and say that every item you photograph, you're actually photographing the reflection of the light that hits your light sensitive media or your sensor, right? Because that's technically what a photograph is.
Right.
Once you go past that and start retouching, it becomes either a retouched photograph or an illustration. And I understand where you're saying that, it's more about product than light. But in all honesty, if you're talking about a photograph, it's not only is it always about light, but if I just took a big softbox and I hit it with a big softbox, now we may recognize it to be a glass and a bottle, but it wouldn't necessarily say to us the same emotional, wouldn't have the same emotional appeal to us as this particular bottle and glass. I mean, I think even though it's water, it evokes a sense of
vodka,
a much more premium beverage than just tap water. It could be vodka. It could be a brand new premium bottled water that's in a bottle that's similar to what do you call that? What you'd find an alcoholic beverage in, and part of the catch to that could be
moonshine.
Better than drinking. You know what I mean? Water that's better than drinking. So, the idea that this gives you a sense of the product is really part of what good lighting does. And I don't want to say lighting, but if the light isn't right, you don't get a sense of what's being shown. And so to me, since there really isn't a product here, but it evokes the sense of a product, to me, this is all about making sure there's a glow in the back, making sure that there's dark sides on either side of the bottle and the glass so that we know that there's volume and it doesn't just look like the background all the way through. It's about, and this is all lit. This is not photoshopped again. And so, making sure that there's a light overhead to make sure that there's shadow. So even though it's transparent, you get a sense of the the cylindrical volume of each one of these, as well as the, left to right volume. So it's I think when it's done well, we forget that photography is about the light, unless you see crazy colors behind everything. But if it's just white light on a black, white, or gray background, I think sometimes you'll find that in many cases, the image is a lot more about the lighting. I mean, we've all had situations where, you buy something and it doesn't look the same as how it did in the ad. That's just what it's about.
I dated a girl named Crystal once.
Craig.
Well, no, okay. What I don't, I could see the basic, standard studio backlighting to create the arc in the back, and there was a top light, no side lighting, because I can see the direction of the shadow.
There's side lighting there also.
There is side lighting because there's a shadow on the base. It's interesting the way that you lit it, but my curiosity is the edges of the bottle. How did you get that to go dark like that? That's freaky.
Oh, no, it's not freaky. You just have to make sure that you put the black cards on. Black cards on either side. I mean, you put black cards on either side to make sure that the light is diminished, so that you create the shadow in that area.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's cool looking.
So my question is really about crafted light versus uncrafted light. and and because that's what it seems like you're speaking to.
Right.
And so
Crafted.
if this were sunlight streaking through a window,
Hmm.
would it be still give off the same information to the person who's seeing it? And would it then be about that, or would it be about the light and how it lights the subject coming through a window? Would there be
It
any
w-
differences between
oh
the
yeah,
two?
it would be specifically. I mean, if you go back to the floral, the flower and the young man in the suit. I mean, that's all about light going through a window. That was not, there was no strobe, there's no hot light. It's just light going through a small window above the doorway of the restaurant. And when you, when I looked at it, I said, okay, well, this is the light. Excuse me, I looked at it, but when I looked at the scene through the viewfinder and knew I had to get the flower and the tie and part of the dress and the wall. And I knew everything that I wanted to get just to show the details and then the other flower on his lapel. I took one, maybe two photos of that, but I also recognized that in that case, the light did one thing, and that was it started on one side, went across to the other side, and the suit was probably going to go dark, but that was okay because I had the flower in front of it, a substantial amount, so that the suit could be entirely black and it wouldn't matter. But I had enough illumination on the left side of his suit, our right, to for us to understand that it's a suit jacket. Okay. So
Hmm.
in some ways, it looks like he's wearing two lapels, two lapel flowers. If you go back to the lipstick, I mean, yes, it's crafted light, but at the same time, if you saw sunlight and you saw a big circle somewhere on there distracting you from the color of the lipstick, it would no longer convey to you that this is lipstick. You might be marveling at the light, but as quiet as it's kept, this is really about the light because lipsticks don't just exist in a white field with a shiny reflection of themselves aligned like that. They don't exist in that way. And so what I wanted to do was kind of cover, two aspects of it, not just the natural light, but also when one uses light to show us, to create an image that really is about the light. But if you do it in a way that is, quite honestly, very, very familiar or very, very subtly, either of those ways, uh, people don't really notice it's about the light. They just see the item and accept that that's what it really looks like. And then when they get it, they go, oh, the proximity between what I saw in the photograph and what I have in my hand may be great or it may be small.
Okay. I just have a question, or at least a challenge as to, um, and I know that there's been a need in product photography to have color accuracy in terms of the merchandise, but is that really true even in editorial?
Oh, I'm sure that in editorial, I mean, when they run magazines, if you're talking about magazines, yeah, everybody wants color accuracy if they're running for publication in any way, shape, or form. I mean, probably not to the same degree as a manufacturer, but in some cases, they really want it spot on, very natural color.
That's why they
Um,
have Pantone built into Photoshop.
right. I don't, you know, despite the fact that I do tend to like commercial photography and that type of work, I don't necessarily feel that studio photography that studio lighting is superior to sunlight. And I don't subscribe to the conceit that sunlight is always better than the studio light. Also, there are qualities of sunlight that we often replicate or augment with studio lighting because as much as beautiful as the sun is or can be, it isn't always where we want it to be when we want it to be there. It just doesn't happen that way all the time. So in many instances, uh, you have to try to either replicate it or find a way
Bounce
to
it.
create or find a way to bounce it. But there are certain things about bouncing light that I mean, you can use a mirror, you can use a flat board, but you're limited to what you can do with bouncing with one, given the idea that you have time constraints and so forth. But if you've got all the time in the world, and I don't think the sun sits still for anyone, then you can
Yeah.
do that if you're planning something and you know ahead of time that tomorrow the sun will probably be in the same place it was yesterday, and you've set everything up ahead of time, and you've worked on something. Maybe you can do that, and probably you can. But
Yeah.
for me, I think that the sun is definitely the most beautiful light in the world. But like I said, it's not always the same. It's not perfect. It changes from day to day, changes from hour to hour. And so I see uh, commercial lighting and I just see extra lighting as a way to either enhance or replicate the sun as need be, and in some cases be something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I have no argument against
And
artificial
now
light.
for something completely different.
you know, but I think it's kind of interesting because I think as I guess as a naturalist would probably say, we're always looking to augment the naturalness of something, right? And
Mm,
and so it's like, no, it's not to our liking. We got to change it,
Right,
And
right. Well,
to some degree, you cannot change what happens in natural sunlight, no matter what.
right,
Right, you
right.
have
But
no control because, as Mark said, it changes from moment to moment, hour to hour, and it messes even with me when I'm shooting, photographing, because there'll
mm.
be a cloud that happens when I don't want the cloud to happen, and it's happened right in the spot that I'm photographing, and I'm
right,
like, gosh darn it, and the cloud won't go away for 15 or 20
Ah,
minutes.
such
right.
language,
And
Mr.
and I would
Nelson. Gosh
and
darn it.
in some cases I would argue that the two still life photographs are probably more about light than a lot of the
Mm,
other things that I do, because quite honestly, if not for the lighting, I guess particularly in this, which doesn't replicate sunlight, normal sunlight at all, it's all about lighting. I mean, if it's
mm,
not lit in this manner, then it doesn't look like it is. I'm not saying this is the greatest lipstick photograph of all time, but it's certainly competent. And I think we've seen this type of rendering so frequently that we take for granted that, oh, it's about the product, but part of that is inherent with it's about the product in its best light.
Mhm.
mm. I used to date a girl named Sunny.
Okay. Hey, Greg, you have
Wait, is
anything
that
before we
lucite?
close?
That's on lucite, right? That's not Photoshop. That's a reflection off lucite, right? White lucite?
That is clear lucite on a white tabletop that I made.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Nelson. What were you saying,
No, no,
sir?
no. You have anything before we close out?
Uh, I used to date a girl named Candy. I got nothing, man. A
Okay.
great topic. Thank you for this topic. Light,
Mhm.
light comes in all different shapes,
It
forms, and
does. Mark,
colors. And I
anything
said, get
before we
out there
close
and
out?
shoot.
No, I think Greg's absolutely right. Light is in all sorts of forms, and I think the most important thing that has been said tonight was to, while you're photographing without the assistance of additional light or flash or a lamp or flashlight, in the daylight, walk around, take a look, see what it is. And Ken, you showed very good examples of what sunlight just does in the natural world, not natural world because it's cityscapes, but in the world,
Hmm.
and what natural lighting can do for you. And it's valuable. It's very valuable, and understanding that helps you in any form of photography.
Sure. Oh, one last thing. Well, two things. As far as street stuff, I mean, watch major motion pictures. If you really want a lesson in studio lighting, watch like movies from the 50s. Those guys were masters of, like, the black and white images or black and white movies.
Hmm.
Their lighting was amazing. Modern day movies, watch how most of the light, everything is usually lit from the back. And if you've been on a movie set or get a chance to watch a really good, high end movie production, the sunlight is almost always behind them, and they always have like these huge 2,000 watt arc lights pumping the light or filtered light into to match the temperature of the daylight that they're using. But man, there's just so much you could do. Light is everything. Get out there, shoot, get used to it, and figure out something that works for you. That's all I got.
Okay, and I'll close up by saying that I find it interesting because, of course, when it was a subject that I was interested in bringing up, and so I had a specific thought process in my head in terms of what was going to be the outcome of this conversation, and it turned out to be nothing like I thought it would be, which is fine because I had a preconceived notion about what you both were going to bring up, and I thought it was going to be in line with mine. And lo and behold, it's not. And I think that's the key factor about the differences between just the three nuances and differences between how we both approached this subject. I approached it from a different subject than Greg. Greg approached it from a different subject than Mark, or at least we came at it from three different angles. And it was just a unique experience to actually see those three different angles play out and in a form that is valid and true. So with that, if anyone out there has any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts about this discussion, leave a comment below. If you'd like to, subscribe, and we'll answer all the questions, if any questions come up as to what's going on. But we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again. I'm Kenneth Nelson with Greg Cleghorn.
I used to date a girl named Trinity.
We are the three Black grads. We'll see you next time.